what would you do in your first 90 days on the job? So this is what I call a scenario question. So there's a lot of these. So I think that the challenge with a scenario question is people feel like they're so open-ended that people just don't know where to start. And then they wind up going on down a path, and then they kind of get lost in their answer. I would look at your social media because I think your logo is weird or whatever. And then they're kind of like, well, all right, I don't know where to go from here, right?
Yeah.
But if you can establish what I call a home base, which is just like general, like upfront pause principle, then you can actually explore paths from that home base and then come back to it. So like if someone says, what would you do in your first 90 days? A good home base needs to be kind of broad enough to have paths against it. So it could be something like, I would focus on first learning as much as I can, contributing as much as I can, and building relationships. Okay. So that's like the foundation of your answer. It's your home base. And then you can kind of take that and piece it together. Here's what I mean by learning as much as I can. I mean this, study, et cetera, et cetera. Here's what I mean by building relationships. I would take everyone out to lunch and just understand the business dynamics and the culture.
Yeah.
And then finally, contributing. I'm not going to change the world in the first 90 days, but I do think I have some things to offer. I think I could look at this and that and the other thing. So establishing that home base gives you a more complete answer. And it also allows you, if like one of your paths, like contributing, doesn't sound as good, you can always come back to home base and then just focus on relationships or something like that. It just feels more complete, and it doesn't make every part of the answer have so much pressure on it, Right. So that's how I would approach a question like that.
Right. So that's 90 days. Are there variations that are like that you need to adjust for? So say it's like a shorter amount of time.
What opportunities do you see in our business to improve? How would you go about solving this challenge we have? Again, how would you fix our social media strategy? Right. Oh, well, you're on Facebook, you should be on Instagram. No. Well, just backing up, I would be first and foremost interested in who your consumer is. And understanding that would affect platforms, it would affect how much money you spend, and it would affect the type of creative that you give. So let me just take each of those three. Let's start with the platforms. Let's start with, so if you back it up to give yourself a little wiggle room, right? You're going to have a much more successful answer to that question.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking like that is so tough. Like imagine someone coming in as a know-it-all. Like you really know nothing until you've stepped in the company and you've spent you've put in the time analyzing the problem. Like I could look at someone's social media and think that I know all the answers, but unless you really truly understand the problem, like who the target audience is, right? Like what types of messages they respond to, like looking at that stuff, then you really don't know. So the humility, like to kind of talk about learning in the very beginning, I think is really important. And I think that
it's a balance. Yeah. It's a balance. You don't want to act like you're going to do nothing, but you also don't want to act like you're going to solve all the problems.
Yes.
So you have to show that self-awareness in your answer too.
Yeah, you cannot wing that question. I'm just saying, people coming in and winging it, like, no, you have to prepare.
Yeah. I think that is a question like to prepare for ahead of time every time as you study the company. It's one to prepare for.
Love it. There are 30 possible resume mistakes stopping you from landing interviews. And please, whatever you do, don't submit your resume to another bot who won't listen. As a top resume service, we've helped thousands of job seekers. And with our expert eye, Let's Eat Grandma will transform your resume into a job-winning masterpiece. Don't wait. Submit your resume to Let's Eat Grandma now for a free critique.